Did you know that the Olympic torch has been to space? Before the 2014 Olympics in Sochi, Russia, Oleg Kotov and Sergei Ryazansky were to perform an Olympic torch relay in a very unique way. The Expedition 37 flight engineers were performing maintenance on the International Space Station, and began the handoff for the torch to be used in the opening ceremonies in the 2014 Russian Olympics. Believe it or not, this story is nothing compared to some of the other strange and interesting things that have happened in Olympic history. The Olympics have been around for nearly 2,800 years. During this video, we will be going over all the crazy things that have happened in its history from now all the way back to 776 BC. How have the rules changed, outfits they wore, and what the viewers got to experience when watching these games back then compared to now. Let's go on a journey through all the strange and bizarre history behind the Olympics. Why don't we start from the very beginning, when most historians believed the first Olympics started, which was in the year 776 BC. Even though games today are open to every gender, it has not always been that way. Only men were allowed to participate in the games, or game to be more precise in this case. The only game that took place in the beginning years of the Olympics was running the length of the track. The only clothing they had was called a loincloth, which is a single piece of cloth wrapped around the hips. Once they reached the 15th Olympiad, meaning the 4-year period between Olympic Games, in the year 720 BC is when contestants started competing nude. Orsippus of Megara was the Olympic runner that really kicked off this tradition. When he was running during an event, his loincloth slipped off of him and he was exposed for everyone to see. But did that stop him? No. He actually went on to win the race. Some would say that another inspiration to compete naked was from the Spartans. Have you ever seen the movie 300? The 300 Spartans did not fight nude, as that would not be practical, but they often trained and competed in games nude. They were portrayed as masculine and had a lot of physical power. Olympic competitors modeled after the Spartans by competing nude. They did this as a tribute to their Greek god Zeus, and to show off their masculinity and physical power. It also was intended to give them more movement ability and to intimidate other competitors. That's one way to show intimidation. Could you imagine if this tradition stuck around until today? They also could have gotten the idea from the main area that the contestants would train in, the gymnasium, which has the Greek meaning of naked. This was an area where they could train, socialize, and be naked. Track and field was not the only sport that was competed in the au naturel. Can you imagine the kind of injuries that were encountered while competing in horse racing completely exposed? How about the other sport that they competed in, pankration, which was introduced in 648 BC, is an unarmed combat sport similar to modern mixed martial arts. The last sport they competed naked in was wrestling. Covered in oil bare naked, this sport was gruesome, as the only rules were no biting or attacking the opponent's genitals. Broken fingers, and even arms to get out of holds was common. By the time it reached the 5th century, and the year reached 393 AD, Roman Emperor Theodosius I, who was a Christian emperor, called the games pagan festivals, in which he banned the tradition. He did this due to the Olympians worshipping their god Zeus instead of believing in Christianity. So sadly the games did not continue for a long time. What would it take to revive the Olympic Games again? Well, let's fast forward 1,503 years to the year 1896, when the Olympics were officially started again in Athens, Greece. Baron Pierre de Coubertin was the founder of the IOC, or the International Olympic Committee. Coubertin was a French educator and historian that founded the IOC on June 23, 1894. Do you want to know one of the strangest sports that was introduced 4 years after the revival of the Olympics? That game was tug of war. The first tug of war games was held at the Olympic Games in Paris in the year 1900. The first games featured 5 to 6 members for each team. The first gold medalist was a combined team of Sweden and Denmark to beat France in the final. The US did not partake in this first event, but went on to win the tug of war games held in St. Louis, Missouri in 1904. These games lasted for nearly 5 months, when the usual amount is just 16 days. This year was also the first one to introduce golf as an Olympic sport. Did you know the Olympics handed out silver for the first place candidate? It wasn't until 1904 that the classic gold, silver, and bronze medals were rewarded. The gold medal was made of pure gold from 1904 to 1912 and every year after that. The Olympic gold medal is not actually made out of gold. The gold medals today are actually 92.5% silver, and the rest is gold as part of Olympic standards. Tug-of-war was not the only sport not commonly known to be in the Olympics. There was also the plunge for distance. It is much like how it sounds. You dive into the water and see how far you can drift until you have to surface with a maximum of 1 minute. This event was held at the 1904 Olympics, where the whole swim team was made up of only American competitors. This was won by William Dickey, who went a distance of 62.5 feet. To put it into perspective, that is 1 bowling lane in length. Another game that you would never think of being in the Olympics was pigeon shooting. Each contestant shoots as many pigeons as they can. This was held in the 1900 Olympic game in Paris. This event was won by a Belgian contestant named Leon de London, who shot 21 pigeons. This kind of sport is not one that would last long in the Olympics. Another shooting event that was held at the 1908 Olympics in London was pistol dueling, and was an event that really sparked the viewers' eyes. This event was the most tragic one, as you can imagine what happens to the losing opponent. Well, actually, they shot wax bullets at each other with highly protective gear on. Did you know Tarzan was in the Olympics? Everyone remembers one of the most popular children's stories of all time. A child who is raised in the African jungle by apes. Johnny Weissmuller competed in the 1920s series of Olympics and went on to win 5 gold medals in the swimming events. He would later star in the Tarzan movies during the 1930s. There was actually 4 other contestants who competed in the 1920 Olympics and starred in Tarzan movies. Moving on to the 1930s and 1940s. The Olympics have only ever been cancelled 3 times in modern Olympic history and 4 times total in world history. The first time in 393 AD, where it was just banned, the second was during World War I, and finally twice during World War II. These have been the only times the Olympics have ever been cancelled. Now that we have gone over some ancient and strange history of the early Olympics, let's fast forward to the 1960 Olympic Games, held in Rome. A man named Abebe Bikila was the first African in history to win a gold medal. How did he do this? Easy, by running a 26-mile marathon, but that's not the craziest part. He did it without shoes on. Can you imagine what it feels like to run 26 miles without shoes? One can only imagine what the bottom of his feet looked like after that run. This was also the first year to allow physically disabled athletes to compete in the Olympics, more specifically war veterans. That being said, there has been other instances before this where people with some kind of physical disabilities had partaken in an Olympic event. An athlete named George Iser competed with a left wooden leg. George was a German-American gymnast that lost his leg when he was a child by getting run over by a train. He actually went on to win 6 medals in the 1904 Olympics. Now the one that most likely tops them all was in the more recent 2016 Olympics. Ibrahim Hamato became a table tennis champion when he played while having no arms and playing with the racket in his mouth. That's got to take some serious head coordination. Coincidentally, similar to George Iser, who lost his leg in a train accident, Hamato actually lost his arms in a train accident. He is a 2-arm amputee who wanted to prove to his friend that nothing is impossible. He surely proved that when he won 2 silver medals in the 2011 and 2013 African Games competitively, and eventually competed in the 2016 Rio Olympics and 2020 Tokyo Olympics.